those who didn't hear, we will make a recording out of this webinar. We will share the recording and the presentations as PDFs on the Nordic Plus website and also through the ITS associations in Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Iceland. So if they're not available on their homepages, they will be on the Nordic Plus webpage. I will shortly, you see the program on the screen. I will shortly tell you what Nordic Plus is, and then we're going to go through all our excellent presentators, and they're going to give a short introduction from their point of view. At the end, I would like to do a Q&A, but you can ask questions in the chat meanwhile, so that's not a problem. So please use the chat, and there's already one saying hello, everybody. Hello, welcome to this webinar. When you ask questions in the chat, if you are asking a specific person, please ask either, if you can't remember the person's name, but ask the country. We have representatives from Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark here today, as you see in the program. So, and we do a Q&A at the end. And when we do the Q&A, I would like you to turn on the camera and raise your hand, or raise your hand and then turn on your camera and let us know who you are and what the question is. Excellent. I'm very happy to have you here to talk about the Nordic Plus. Nordic Plus is a joint platform together with an ecosystem with all the ITS associations in the Nordic region. So there is a ITS association in all of the Nordic countries and in the rest of the Europe as well. But as we are together forming the 11th largest economy in the world, we think that we should cooperate more. We think that because most of our countries have a boundary to another Nordic country, we should cooperate and network and have a possibility for more business partners, for more project partners, and for more activity partners. The Plus stands for the Baltic region, because we are a very including region. So we like to play and work with a lot of others as well. So we invite other regions as well to find activities together with Nordic Plus. If you're a member of the ITS association in your country, you're automatically a member of the Nordic Plus network. And we have a vision that we're going to be the leading region for future-proof mobility. Now we can discuss what future-proof means, and we can dwell on that at the end. And believe me, we had a good strategic meeting here in Oslo where we discussed that vision. But we feel that leads up to the Nordic countries' vision of being the most integrated and sustainable region by 2030. And we want to connect the Nordics and beyond for finding seamless, smart, and sustainable mobility. And the mobility for us includes both transport, both person and goods transport. So we do a lot of webinars, seminars, ITS World and ITS Europe, congresses. Also, we will have a delegation to Traffics, Intertraffic, in Amsterdam in April. We will also look into projects. Currently, we're not, as Nordic Plus is not organized as an organization, but in the future, we will look at projects. We will connect you with other members, other organizations that you feel should be of interest for your business. And we also work politically in order to have transport and mobility high on the Nordic Ministry agenda. On that note, I will give the word to our first presenter, Siri Vasshaug, and we've agreed that they will do their introduction themselves. And if you have questions about them as people, we can do that later, but now we go straight into content. So Siri, please, the word is yours.
Thank you so much. Siri is my name. I work in the Norwegian Public Road Administration in a department with a short and explanatory, the short name called Legislation and Regulatory Authorities. So if you add that with Norwegian Public Roads Administration, you can spend the entire 15 minutes just explaining where I work. And I will not go into if I'm married or have kids. I will jump straight into showing my presentation. See if it will present and I get the proper slide on the right screen. Thank you. There we go. So I've been challenged to say a little bit about how we prepare for automated transport in Norway, specifically finding out what regulatory challenges or barriers we need to address. First off, let me just start by saying that we believe that automated transport will give positive effects for the whole transport system in Norway. It will give greater accessibility, providing more freedom of movement, possibly giving the same freedom of movement to groups that so far have not had it. It could be visually impaired people or people who have physical impairment. It will, and this is backed by research, it will enhance traffic safety. There are a number of traffic accidents that happen due to human failure, whether it's use of alcohol or drugs, or if it's just not paying enough attention. And we also think that it will be a part of better use of resources. Automated transport in itself will not possibly use the resources better, but combined with other trends and technologies that we see, shared mobility, for example, which Claes will say more about later, we believe that automated transport can enhance the use of resources. So we think that this combined can will give more innovation. It will also give us challenges when it comes to the new security landscape. But all in all, we believe that there are more positive effects with automated transport than negatives. I will start by saying a little bit about how we regulate automated transport today. We have a law called Lov om utprøving av selvkjørende kjøretøy, which means the law for testing self-driving vehicles. And the purpose of this law is to facilitate testing of automated vehicles. It must be done while ensuring traffic safety and privacy consideration. We ask that tests are done gradually within the scope and within the security and the maturity of the technology available. And we use this law to make exemptions from other laws that we have in place, traffic laws and vehicle laws, to find the effects that automated transport can have, both on traffic safety, how it affects traffic management, mobility as a whole, and also how it can be used to give us a sustainable development within the mobility. And so far, this law came in effect in 2018. We've had over 100 approved applications. Some of them are extensions or changes to already approved applications, 70%. But we've had quite a few application process so far. We have 300 requests for access. That means people asking for information on the applications. This is increasingly, which we take as a sign that there's an increased interest in more thorough information on the application and the pilots and the testing that is being done in Norway. We've had 8 pilots with public transport spread all over parts of Norway, both in the north, the west, and the east. And we've had 2 long-lasting tests in open pit mines. And both of these are also done without safety drivers. And we had 0 serious accidents, which I think is a very good goal to have. Now, on to what we think will be important going forward. And we've made this timeline to show some of the issues that needs to be addressing. And I was asked to say something about the regulatory barriers. And I've come to understand, and my claim will be that it's not necessarily regulatory barriers that we face. It's more organizational, and in some instances, it's the fact that we need to decide. We need to decide the road ahead. We need to decide a path. We need to decide a direction. And in some of these posts that I will go through, you can see that that's part of what we need in Norway need to do now. We need to work even more with correct positioning data. This also means that we have to know the sort of the risks of using positional data, the risk of being hacked, jammed, spoofed, and how we addressed if such a thing will happen. It doesn't mean that we have to have systems that are safe from hacking. We will never have that, but we need to make sure that we will know when or if we are hacked and what our backup is. We need to have infrastructure that is both machine and human readable. We've had a very good example of that today or this week in Norway, where newer cars that have automatic speed adjustment based on reading speed signs along the road misinterpret these signs, and the data that are provided within the vehicle are wrong because they're not updated properly. So we need to have, for the unforeseeable future, we need to make sure that the signs are both readable for machines, the cars, but also for humans, so that we have systems that work for both mixed traffic. We also have examples on the mountains in Norway that the signs of speed limits have different heights on different sides of the roads, which might seem strange, but this is due to the weather and the way the snow blows. So on the side where the snow tend to pile up, you have higher signs so that the sign doesn't get snowed in. And then on the side where the wind sort of gets, the snow gets swept away, you have lower. This is easy from a human perspective, but from a vehicle perspective, it's hard to read these signs at different levels. So these are a few of the issues that we need to sort of get in place if we're going to go for the next level of automated driving. We, of course, also have to look at the regulation, specifically on drivers' responsibilities and duties. We have several laws in Norway that directs how you are supposed to behave in traffic. And in most cases, it's the driver's responsibility to behave accordingly to laws, but also accordingly to the weather and if there's ice on the roads. So we give the driver a lot of responsibility to evaluate the situation when they are driving. This needs to be addressed if the driver sort of leaves the vehicles. We also need to look at how to access data from vehicles, both the regulatory sides of it, but also how to handle and store this type of data. We do know that there's lots of vehicles today that drive around and just photograph and sort of map the road infrastructure, how that can be utilized in a better way, both between vehicles, but also from vehicle to infrastructure and from vehicle to traffic management is important for future. And then we need to have, and this is where that sort of, we need to decide something. We need to have clarification regarding HD mapping. Most of the automated vehicles today, they rely on HD mapping to navigate on the roads. And this is an issue that I think most countries haven't taken a full standpoint on, whether this is a public, this is something that the public should provide, the government should provide, or if this is something that the car manufacturers need to have on their side. And of course, if the government or the public should have this, who? What we need to point? We need to point at an entity saying this is your responsibility. And then, of course, we also need to have clarification regarding what type of communications demand we have, what is good enough time for communication between vehicles or vehicles and infrastructure. And we also need to know what kind of coverage. The 5G build in Norway is quite high for dense and populated areas, but very few of the roads in Norway are covered in completion by 5G. So there's this debate, and that there's a debate that we need to take on a higher level in Norway as what type of coverage and communication demands do we need for automated transport. And then when it comes to barriers, and I like to claim, or at least suggest that when we talk about barriers for introducing automated transport, we often end up saying it's the regulatory ones that makes it hard for us to do to sort of set into motions automated transport. My claim is that there are several different barriers that we need to address. There are organizational. I think automated transport and automated driving and vehicles should be treated as a disruption. And therefore, maybe we can't solve the issues with the traditional organizational methods that we've used to. Maybe we need to find new structures. And that's also why I welcome initiatives like Nordic Plus, where we have places that we can discuss with people that come from different industries or different academic areas than we ourselves does. And I also think that there's an issue of culture, not necessarily in the way that we are used to talking about between countries, but also within organizational. If we are going to get a good introduction of automated transport in Norway, there needs to be a trust between the partners. We need to know that we have different roles. Ours, of course, is sometimes being the hard one who says no. But I also think that sort of trust that we want the same thing, that we're aiming towards a common goal, is very important. And then, of course, like I said, and I also showed, there are some regulations that need to be changed and altered, especially if we're going to do level 4 or 5. And then, of course, resources. This will cost money. It will take time, and we need to have the right people in the right time to do this work. So important to move forward, I think, is that we have joint effort. This is one example of that. Other meetings and projects that you do together with other Nordic partners is important. We need to work together on finding the sustainable solutions. I believe in dialogue, inputs, and cooperations. There's nothing more fun than to being a part of a meeting or a group of people or a project with lots of people that know a lot more about stuff than I do. When I walk into a room and feel like this is people I can learn something from, that's when I know that a project will be good. And then I think we need to sort of define the barriers. We need to talk. What are they? List them up. Okay, so this is something we need to work on. This is something we need to work on. And be a little bit tougher. And this comes back to the whole culture and the trust. Because if we trust each other, we are more, it's easier to be tough on each other and be honest. So I think this is sort of a start, but I think in the future, be a little bit more trustworthy and then have some tough love in the discussions. Yes, thank you.
Very good, Siri. Thank you so much. I have noted down a couple of questions. I hope you all have questions. We will do the question and answer to you that arrived late at the end of the session, because we have some time. Because otherwise we will maybe stay a little bit too long with one presenter, and that's not fair. There's one question for you already, Siri, in the chat that you can probably easily reply to. Thank you so much, Siri. I will welcome our next guest, that is Reijo Jalke from Traficom in Finland, and I will share his presentation. So if you are, there you are, now I can see you on the screen as well. Good. See that I share the right presentation, Reijo. So there we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. And I should have this one on presentation mode now. Please, Reijo, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Happy to be here, and happy to hear you hear all the other presentations and discussions later on. But my name is Reijo Jälkä, and I come from the Finnish Transport and Communications Agency, which is a central agency under our ministry. And I work here as a chief advisor. I work with vehicles, although Traficom deals with airplanes, ships, boats, communication, information, and rolling stock. But today we are concentrating on automated vehicles and how testing those vehicles is possible in Finland. Okay. And then I will show we have had some challenges, and if we have been able to solve them, I will tell you how and what should be done. Okay, next please. My presentation, I talk you about the application process, which we had here in Finland as a part of legislation. Then we talk about a little bit about the business. I don't have a slide from that because I think the answer was quite clear. We allow business as a part of testing, and that was because a lot of testing companies or applicants, they were eager to also find out whether it's possible when there's no driver inside a vehicle, can you collect payments from the customers? But when we changed the legislation, that is possible nowadays in Finland. Then I talk about our new national vehicle category, which is light electronic transport devices. We call them transport robots, but this is quite new thing in Finland. We have had those about 2 years, but now we even have a new vehicle category. And later on, I will show you some slides about the exemption permit for automated vehicle. Okay, next slide, please. We have given test plates for automated vehicles from since 2016. We don't have that many tests going on in Finland like in Norway, but we have given about 40 permissions to 17 different entities. And we grant certain test plates. They are yellow with black numbers and letters. So they are very different than other Finnish license plates. We can give test plates only to the business or other organizations, so natural persons cannot have test plates. Traffic insurance is obligatory, and this is one of the challenges we right now have, because in order to have a Finnish traffic insurance, you need to have a Finnish business identity code, and that might cause problems to the foreign companies, and we are discussing with the insurance companies whether this can be changed, but it's still open. But we have suggested that if a foreign company wants to come over to Finland to have tests, they should have some kind of a collaboration with a Finnish company, so that way you can turn around the business identity code. And we can give test plates to the vehicles that are they are not registered in Finland, or if they are decommissioned vehicles. That's what I mean when in Finland, when you register your vehicle first time, the vehicle stays all the time in register. But if you are not using it, you can make an announcement to our register that you are not using it, so you don't pay insurance or vehicle tax, and for those vehicles we can give test plates. And of course, the test plates can be only used if you are testing vehicles, if you're dealing with the automated vehicles. That are the main things for the applications. And next, please. As I told you earlier, Finland changed our Vehicle Act, and we have had this process for quite a long time, but we were afraid that if you are just if the company wants to have the test plates, they didn't have to tell us whether they are going to use them to test automated vehicles. And we were afraid that there might be companies testing automated vehicles and not telling us. So we thought that we should amend our legislation and have a special section for automated vehicle test plates. And because of that, the application process is more complicated. We get more information from the companies. And here are some of the things in our legislation what we want to have from the applicant. Of course, the applicant who the company or companies are, and the second one is probably the most important. Well, safety plan, of course, is the most important, but we like to know what kind of vehicles we are dealing with. Most of the time, we grant the test plates for level 4 vehicles, so they might be very different than ordinary vehicles. They don't have steering wheels or pedals or anything, and this is something what we are developing more. We are thinking that we should have some kind of a list of the UNECE regulations, and that would probably help the applicants to think about what are the differences between the type approved vehicles. And it also helps us to spot what are the differences with the normal type approved vehicle and the test vehicle. Of course, we want to know who the drivers are and how they are educated, although in automated vehicles, their driving tasks, they probably are in the minor role, but if something happens, there should be always a way to take care of the driving task. And this transition from the system to the natural person, that is one of the biggest things we would like to know. What happens then, and can it be executed as a safe way? We also like to know about the test areas. Are there vulnerable road users, or where the tests are situated? Quite often the tests are in a small designated area, but it can include closed areas and public areas. We would like to know about the research roadmap. and of course we would like to know the time periods where the tests are executed and how long they are planned to last. And also we are curious about are the companies collecting data and how they are using the data, and quite often we have to remind about the right way to use the data. And applicants can tell us other relevant issues. For example, have you contacted police or cities? But that's the main frame what we would like to know about the tests, and that helps the applicant, makes the application faster, and we it helps us to figure out if there is everything that we would like to know about the tests. I think this is really good way to have a list about the most important things. Okay, next slide, please. We also, there were a lot of inquiries if the company had already test plates and they completed their test, but our test plates are in force 1 year automatically, and after a while, if the company wanted to start a new test, there weren't any rules what kind of information they need to give us. But if the test changes significantly, or if the test is completely a new test, we would like to know all the information in a previous page. And our law has rules nowadays that we have always a right to interrupt the test if the test doesn't match the application. I don't know, there isn't any problems with that, but well, if it doesn't match the application, then we have a right to interrupt the test. And of course, we have a right to interrupt test if the test causes dangerous situations or harm to traffic, or if the continuing the test as it was permitted would cause increased risk to other road users. I think this is quite important addition to the legislation. And companies, they have to report, they have to give us a report about the tests after 3 months, or if the tests are going more than 1 year, they have to tell us annually what has happened. And this is something what we are working right now to figure out what kind of reports we would like to have, and that is also helping to publish and giving other companies information about automated vehicles in Finland. And we are going to publish the test results. Okay, these were the main things about automated vehicle testing and the process. And next slide. This is quite interesting. About 2 years ago, there were more and more about talks about light electronic transport devices. Well, they didn't have the name then, but we were thinking, what are these vehicles? Are they allowed to the public roads? And one question was that are they, since they are quite small, are they vehicles that assist walking? Because if they are assisting walking, they could operate on sidewalks. But so we decided that at first that they can be walking assisting devices, but the interpretation, well, to be honest, it wasn't the greatest interpretation. So we were thinking about, should we have a new vehicle category? And we tried to look up if other countries have made that, but we couldn't find about that kind of vehicle category. So we decided to do it as a new category. The maximum speed is 15 kilometers, and they have only the maximum size of the engine is 1 kilowatt. They are, of course, remote operated, and the place where they are operated is pedestrian lanes. Of course, they because of the robots, they go quite slowly. Maximum speed is from 4 to 6 kilometers right now. So and that is the reason why they can be on a pedestrian line. And they those vehicles, they have also included automated traffic light control, because in some cases the traffic lights, they didn't realize that there was a small robot in front of them, and so they couldn't go further because the light was always red. And right now Traficom is giving enforcement about the technical features, about the measurements, mass, lights, reflectors, horns, and brakes, and that comes into force 1st of January next year. But this has been a really nice project to allow small robots, and I think more and more companies are planning to have delivery robots on the sidewalks. And last, Traficom can give exemption permits. This is something different than the test plates. I think this is the way, first using test plates, and then having exemptions, and then the final path is to register them in normal plates. But Traficom can give exemption from the technical requirements for single vehicle or separately identified vehicles, and which are those vehicles are intended to provide public transportation, and they must be used in pre-planned routes or areas, and the speed limit is only 30 kilometers, and the exemption can be given for maximum of 4 years. This is something we haven't done yet, but we are probably waiting for the first exemption applicants in the near future. And my last slide. I know that all the countries are thinking, who is the driver? Because can a system be a driver? And the Vienna Convention, which says that all vehicles must have a driver, but in Finland we have interpreted that the driver can be outside a vehicle. This has been always what we thought since the 2016. It has been clear that the driver can be outside a vehicle, but in the future, when we are talking about level 4 or 5, who's the driver? Can a system be a driver? Probably not, because I think the Vienna Convention expects that the natural person is a driver. So in Finland, I think the probable solution is that there should be exemptions about the driver demand. We also need new information to vehicle register, because if there isn't a driver on board, if something happens, there should be a way to find out who is the liable person, company, or a person who's using the vehicle, or is there a provider information about the vehicle owner. That is something we have to decide whether what kind of new information we need, and that is only one thing. What other things we need to develop in our vehicle register, it's unclear. And of course, we have to think about the communication between unmanned automated vehicles and other road users. If something happens, what are the possibilities to the police to talk with the driver who is outside a vehicle? I don't know how to solve this, but probably during the automated tests, this also comes into the testing, and we probably then know what kind of demands we have. But these are the next steps we are going to decide what to do. And thank you. This was my last slide.
Thank you, Reijo. I'm trying to find the mute button there at the same time. Thank you so much. I also have some questions for you, but we take that at the end. Very interesting to hear also the Finnish approach, because as we're now moving forward, the testing regime in each country, it's good to know how in the Nordic Plus region we are doing the testing differently, but also what are the differences, so we can talk about the barriers that also Siri was into in her presentation. Next one up is Christian. I hope you're here. We didn't have time to test with you the presentation, so I hope it works.
Yep, I hope so too. Let me just bring it up.
Well, at least we can see you and hear you well.
Great, good stuff. That's a good start. So
thank you so much. We can see that. So if you put in presentation mode, and welcome.
Thank you. So I've been listening a little bit to what's already been said, and I've looked at who else is on the agenda. So I've tried to keep it to not overlap with what anyone else is saying, and to keep it sharply focused on our part of it. So this is just an update on a little bit about what we do and where we are in the process of autonomous vehicles. I'll skip the whole intro, the background of Holo. If you're interested, I'm more than happy to have a separate meeting with someone who wants an introduction to who we are. But I call us an implementation company for autonomous software. So we work across these different segments in bringing autonomous vehicles on the road. We don't focus equally on all of them. Freight transportation in the air is taking off. It's quite mature. People transportation in the air will be some years away. People transportation on the ground, we have our big project with Ruder and Mobileye in Kovel. We'll get back to that in more detail. And like it was just shown in the previous presentation, the freight vehicles on the ground, we also think that there's some potential in that, definitely. So that's also a segment that we're pursuing. So just briefly about our role, to kind of frame the rest of the activities that we do and the rest of this presentation. This implementation role that we play sits somewhere between the companies that do the autonomous software and the ones that build the actual vehicles. We don't want to touch on that part. We don't want to recreate what the Waymo and Cruises and Mobileye's of the world are doing. We want to take their product and implement it in a local context. Over on the right side, there's an end customer who wants to go from a A2B. There's a mobility provider or logistics provider when it's freight. Mobility provider, for example, being Ruter in the Oslo area. We don't want to do what they do either. We want to try and facilitate the mobility that they want to provide and want to be this operator role, just like they have manual driven vehicles today. But of course, the interesting part is the implementation part. So that is the new part. And that is basically what I call Holo on one page. If I could only show one slide, I would show this one and just basically talk about what we do from end to end. And these are all the activities we typically do in a project. So for the rest of this presentation, you can have this as a mental image. I know it's a little bit complex, but this is basically also what we're doing in this project in Gro with Ruter and Mobileye that I'll focus on today. From the left side in the top, trying to find the customer requirements, who wants to do something with autonomy, where do they think it can make a difference and provide some value. Bottom left corner, who has the right technology to solve those issues and provide that use case. How can we put it together in the right project setup, the right business case, the right funding, the right contract? And then in the middle, how can we get the permit to operate, like Siri was already presenting? We'll get back to our part of that as well. Training everybody around the route, making sure that we have a safe operation before we start. Deployment is preparing the infrastructure, like we also covered a little bit, the surroundings, the data that the vehicle uses to navigate and drive from. And then in operations, we have a safety driver in the vehicle for now. We will eventually remove that person and go into supervision and supervise the vehicles remotely. Of course, there's maintenance, there's project management, and there's integrations into other IT systems than the autonomous system itself that we also provide. So a little bit of history. We've done this before. I just copy-pasted a little bit while others were presenting with this Nordic Plus perspective. I think it's relevant to say that we've operated all over Scandinavia, in Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Denmark, and now we have one project in operation in Norway, but it's a big one, so I don't feel it's a problem that there's only one project in that column at the moment. But we also have a pretty good insight into to what the status is in different countries. It's always interesting to understand how the legislation, for example, evolves across different countries. The current project, I think, is the most interesting part of the focus for today. We are in a project where Mobileye provides the technology and the vehicles. Ruter, as in previous projects in Norway that we have done, is our customer, is the one that provides the customer interaction and the ticketing, all the normal things that they do. And now we have a chance to start again with some new technology. The previous projects you saw were with Navia vehicles, were with one project with Sensible 4. We think Mobileye is, of course, a very different generation, so we have high hopes for making a lot of progress in this project. So the roles between us is a little bit like you saw before in the value chain. NIO, Chinese company, has built the vehicle. Mobileye has retrofitted that vehicle with sensors, and it's their software, of course, that operates that runs the vehicle. We are this implementer and operator. We are the permit holder in Norway. We take care of daily operations. We do the driving on the street and try to make sure that we can drive autonomously as possible. We collect data. We report to the authorities, to Ruter, to others who have a stake in this project. Ruter fulfills their normal role of being the public transport authority, the customer experience. Where are we going to drive? What is the right use case to solve? Where should the pick-up and drop-off points, the PUDOs, be? Pricing, marketing, all those things. We happily let Ruter do what they're really good at. In this project, we're using Movit's fleet management platform for the kind of the back end, the passenger booking, the mission management, and so on. So that's something that's new for all parties. And of course, then we have the passengers that we will eventually be able to add into the vehicles as well. So the area is a suburb of Oslo. It's in the Gro Valley area. We are going to be operating these shared vehicles with an on-demand service of people being able to book them. where there will in time be shared rights between them, and then of course an algorithm behind it to optimize this whole fleet of vehicles. Yeah, so far we have these 50 virtual pickoff and drop-off points, so that's what we will eventually get to. I think we have a little bit fewer than that at the moment, but that's where we will eventually get to, and that's a combination of what is allowed and what is needed from the customer perspective. The local municipality and Router has done a lot of analysis on where to put these pickoff and drop-off points, and we have been involved in the process of what is actually technically feasible and what is safe to where we actually safely stop and start. There was a little bit of talk about the infrastructure and mapping and so on, also in the series presentation. So I just quickly copy pasted this. This is where we started in July and August of this year. We have made map data available for the area. That's one of the selling points of Mobilize whole platform and their setup. But we also did some additional data collection to add to that, and that's a process that was run by Holo, operating vehicles again with Router's branding on them, and it's their explanation. It's them reaching out to the public, explaining what's going on, and it's our guys doing the day-to-day work of adding that extra mapping data. So the answer is, should this be the question is, should this be public or should this be private? For now, at least, it's a task for a private company like us to do. Then I also just added this because we had a chance recently also to summarize our experience with the Norwegian legislation and regulation for autonomous vehicles. So this is now our 5th project that we're doing in Google. We now have the permit to operate. We've had 20 individual permits issued, various changes to these different projects that we've done. And some of our learnings, we use the Norwegian process as a good example of how things should be running in other countries. So we think it's quite a smooth process compared to what we're facing in other countries. So we're quite happy with that. We have a one-stop shop in our interaction with the administration. It's a dialogue between us. Some authorities in other countries may feel that if they have too much of a dialogue, they're somehow compromising their integrity or something like that. But actually, I think we feel that it provides actually a much higher safety level if we can have a conversation about the reality of the technology that we are bringing, the way we want to implement it, and then continually get challenged by the authorities instead of us sending an application, waiting 3 or 6 months for some feedback, and then redoing everything. I think that's a really positive aspect of the process in Norway. And the authorities, we talked about, we saw it in the presentation already in terms of infrastructure, data, and these things. The Norwegian authorities take a responsibility in trying to mature this whole area, which I think is extremely positive. And yeah, we can let the data talk for itself. This is now the first project in Europe, actually in the world, with Mobileye vehicles in this way, with us as a third-party operator. There are projects in Germany as well being worked on. We can just see that we have actually now overtaken those projects, even though they were announced much earlier, because we have this good setup. Just some recent events. This was updated 2 weeks ago, and even things have happened since then, but I think this gives the best overview. The vehicles are now in Norway. They've been wrapped. We have the garage up and running. We had a launch event at a technical school that where Router launched to the Norwegian press. We have the permit that we need to operate it. We call it a level 2 permit, but it basically says that we're allowed to drive these vehicles on public road in an autonomous mode with a safety driver behind the wheel. So we are taking it very easy. We're very cautious and conservative because, of course, we know that we are shaping the public perception around autonomous vehicles in Norway when we are some of the first to do it this way. And then just a bit of a timeline. We are now in this process of configuring these vehicles, making sure that they work. Some of these formal steps have been done, and then we're going to do a long period of testing and validation in the test area. And after that, hopefully, we can have other people other than Holo employees in the vehicle sometime during next year. But we're not putting specific dates on that. Of course, it depends on the quality of driving and the level of autonomy we can implement in a safe way. Yeah, and then just to show it's more fun showing pictures than it is to show big visions of the future. These are the guys from Statens Vegvesen, the Norwegian authorities inspecting the vehicles in the garage, and this is us actually getting the number plates. As you can see, we're celebrating that. That was a really, it's always really great to see the actual results of your work. And then we have now started the on-road this on-road calibration. Unfortunately, I cannot show you everything that's going on at the moment. We try to protect everybody's confidentiality and IP and everything like that. But I can show you some of what's publicly available. Mobileye, of course, has done testing in other locations, in urban environments, in high-speed highways, and in, for example, something like roundabouts. And of course, we've been quite impressed with what they can do in other places. And of course, this is what we are trying to recreate now in Grul. And we're already seeing a big leap in performance in comparison to what we have done previously. So we're looking very much forward to presenting that to everybody when the time is right. But this is the kind of level that we hope to achieve. Yeah. Then I think I've removed some slides already about what Ruder wants to do, because Claes is on the agenda as well, and I think a lot of people already know about this. But of course, this is the motivation for us to be able to be along in this process, from technological demonstration, which is where we are now, to a place where this becomes a viable business, and where we can actually scale this to Ruder's vision of thousands of autonomous vehicles across the whole Oslo region. Just to say, next steps, we're always trying to find the right balance between what is the actual mobility need, what are the business requirements, what are we allowed to do, the legal requirements of what we can do or be allowed to do, and then what can the technology actually do. And this is quite interesting to try and find a match where everybody gets something out of it, but where we can never compromise on safety and what we're allowed to do, but we also continually have to move the progress towards making this into a healthy business overall. So that's where we work, and that's where we're trying to find the next steps and the balance between all these different data points, you could say. Yeah, that was basically the short presentation. I could also continue about drones. I could continue about the autonomous freight vehicles, but I will try not to.
That's very good, Christian. We would probably come back to the drone part later on. I think that's a webinar on its own. I know you will have to leave a little bit earlier, so maybe you will not be at the Q&A, but could you quickly just share with us, what do you see as the biggest barrier from your point of view as a company entering into to do, how many different projects you had? 5 in Norway, and in the rest of the, because I wasn't able to count, so about maybe around 10-ish?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is actually access to the technology. I mean, Waymo and Cruise are some of the market leading. You cannot go out and buy their product on the open market and take it to a place like Norway. Now, luckily, we have Mobileye. They were able to see what we wanted to do, the skills that we bring. So that's a big step forward for us. But in a place like Norway, I mean, the regulation is not the issue. I mean, we can now prove that we can. This is our third technology vendor that we take through the approval process. We can get on the road. In other countries, it's a different picture. In Denmark, we're not doing any projects because the legislation is not in place. So in some places, it's regulation. That's the barrier. In other places, it's the commercialization. In other places, it's just access to the technology. But yeah, Norway, I think it's just a matter of us really being able to make the technology work now.
Okay, because as I counted, you are like 5 different collaboration partners in the project, including Router then, but technology partners would make 4 then, if we don't count Router as a technology partner in this case. Do you think that will be a model that's going to be in the future, where you have several collaborating? And the next question is then, is there business for all?
Yeah, I think this is always this is the big discussion we're having in the industry right now. We talk to some of these technology vendors. You can see what Waymo and Cruise are doing. A lot of the value chain that I showed before, right? They're building the software. They have, but they now have partnerships in place for the vehicles. That's something new. They're breaking up that value chain. You can see Waymo forming a partnership with Uber now to take care of the booking of vehicles and so on. So you can, from a point where before they wanted to do everything end to end, you can now see that the industry is maturing. They're picking out the parts that they can be competitive in. And this is a story that we've been telling for years. Any mature industry, you have a much more specialized value chain. It is a collaboration between different parties. I mean, everybody always says, yeah, Apple, right? They build the chips and they sell them in their own retail stores. They own the whole value chain, but they are the exception. In most mature competitive industries, you have specialized players working together. And that's actually what makes a healthy industry. If you try to do too many things, you will never really create a mature product where you can drive down the cost. It's better to specialize.
And I think that deserves a discussion on its own, because that's very interesting. But would you then say that the Nordic Plus region is actually then perfect for that kind of a collaboration due to the fact that there is this private-public good collaboration already that would enhance that kind of an idea?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this communication we have with the authorities, I think, is part of it is that Scandinavian openness and willingness to be pragmatic and find solutions. And of course, we work with technology vendors that come from outside of Europe, and then it's a different culture, and we have to bridge that in some way. But we definitely have a lot of elements in place here to make autonomy work. Also, from the business side, I mean, demographics are changing. Bus drivers and truck drivers are no longer available in a lot of places, and that problem will only get worse. So there's a incentive from a lot of companies and public sector actors in the Nordics to investigate autonomy and keep pushing the limits on what can be done.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Christian. And if there are any questions to you in the chat, we will forward them to you later as well. So
yeah,
thank you for your time, and thank you for a very interesting. We will hear a little bit more from Ruta later on. So
great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Then Pia Einrad. That's very also, we have a company here from Sweden, so that's very interesting. So the floor is yours, Pia.
Thank you. I hope you can both hear me and see my slides.
Yes.
Great. So thank you for this opportunity to tell you a bit about Enride and what we are doing. We were asked to give an overview of what is going on, but also if we see that there are some challenges and what we can do together to overcome them. So I will try to end on that note. Okay, so Enride, just a brief, what are we and what are the challenges that we are fighting? We are a transport service provider. That's the baseline. We help our customers deliver products from A to B. And the challenges that we are primarily fighting is twofold. It is the decarbonization of the transport sector, and it is the driver shortage. I wanted to share with you some figures about these two challenges, and they're both from 2022, so quite fresh anyway. In the EU last year, I have a cat here on the table. Sorry about that. In the EU last year, the total registration of new trucks, they were diesel, and it was only 0.6% of the trucks that were battery electric, which makes up only 1,656 battery electric trucks. So the shift that we need is not going very fast. However, of course, we have a big market share to take, right? So it's great that we have started, and we have a long way to go, and the business could be go very well. The other challenge then, the driver shortage, and we have all heard about this the last years. I found a new figure that the IRU is estimating that in 2028, we might lack 745,000 truck drivers in Europe alone. And speaking to our customers, this is also felt in other parts of the industry, in the logistics chain, for example, regarding warehouse staff and forklift drivers. So we are trying to tackle these challenges with this solution. This is what we bring to our customers. We have an electric fleet, and the vehicles that we use are bought from the big OEMs. For example, Scania, as you can see here on the picture, but also BYD and Mercedes and DAF, for example. We are incorporating them into our fleet. We felt early on in the process that to be able to deliver to our customers, we also need to take control of the charging infrastructure. So we are building our own charging infrastructure, and we're doing that both. They could be quite small, a couple of chargers at a site, but they could also be bigger. For example, the other week, we inaugurated a charging station north of Stockholm, where we have at least 4 chargers, and in the port of LA, we are planning for a much bigger one. I don't know how many chargers we will have, but it will be big, and you will all hear about that when the time comes. So we have the vehicles, we have the charging infrastructure, and speaking about partnerships, we are partnering with operational partners. We're partnering with hauliers for the truck drivers. And speaking about the lack of truck drivers, we have felt that there are many truck drivers that want to drive for us. The electric trucks provides a better working environment for the truck driver, him or herself. And we have also felt that there are more female truck drivers that want to drive with us because of what I just mentioned, but also from what we have understood, the conditions for driving with us, the transports that we usually do is quite regional, and for the moment not long haul. They're not away for weeks and weeks, so that could be one aspect of it as well. To make sure that we deliver an efficient solution or efficient transports, we have our own freight mobility platform called Saga, as you can see here on the picture. The system helps us to optimize the transports and the routes, but also primarily focusing on the electric part of it, because it is more challenging to drive electric. You need to know where to charge, when to charge. You need to know the battery status, the weather, and the type of road you are driving. So we are taking all these different factors into account to create an efficient solution. To the very right, you also see what we are famous for, our autonomous vehicle. And going forward, this is what I'll tell you more about. Because what we see is that we need to start with going digital. And as I just mentioned, this is due to the fact that going electric is quite complicated. To do this efficiently, you need to be in control of the data. So first, go digital, and as a second step, electric. And as we do this, we will see and we will learn the customer's routes, and we are constantly trying to figure out which routes would be suited to go autonomous. So, but we see this as a transition, and now we don't have that many autonomous vehicles out there. I will get back to that though. But in the future, of course, we see to be able to have a viable business model also in the future, it needs to be electric and it needs to be digital, but we also think it needs to be autonomous. I mentioned regarding the electric transports that we are often doing regional transports. So we have an idea of scaling the electric transports. We do that today, starting with the regional and local. But as for example, the batteries will the vehicles can drive longer routes and longer distances, we could also change our scope, doing more, for example, long haul. And the approach is quite similar, thinking about the autonomous vehicles for us. We're starting in what we have defined as fenced off areas and nearby, to the very left here in the picture. These are areas where the speeds on all vehicles are quite low, or they're driving quite slow. In the very left, you have no people at the site or no other vehicles. In the nearby scenario, you could have people, VRUs, but also other traffic. But still, the distances in both of these scenarios are quite short. It could be between a factory and a warehouse, a couple of kilometers. These are a couple of scenarios that we have identified are the useful cases for us and our customers for the moment. We're starting here, learning and progressing as we learn. And going back to what Christian just said, this I would say is our useful case, and where we see the sweet spot between business, technology, and, for example, societal readiness. As we progress, we will, of course, be able to handle more complex areas and higher speeds, rural areas and highways. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you what is one of the biggest news for us and what happened a couple of weeks ago. And also which really gives an insight to what I just said regarding the use case that we are doing today, but also where we are with autonomous vehicles today. And I'll see if this could work.
We can't hear the sound. Did you press on the sharing on the sound before you did that? You have to do it every time.
Maybe I didn't.
No. So if you just
I'll
stop
do that again.
because it was very good sound, I have to say. So that's why we would like to have that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be included now. Let's see if it works. Yeah, the sound is it's nice. It's really happy, and you all wake up if you have fallen asleep. Oh no. Okay, sorry about this. I'm trying to
share it one more time with the sound on.
Yeah. Okay, do you see my slide now? Yeah, let's see if it works now. Does it work, Jenny?
No. We
okay.
could hear it when we were testing, but then you just have to talk us through here.
I'll send you the link, but what you can see is a video from our operations at General GE Appliances in Selmer, Tennessee. Sorry about the sound then. Yes, so a couple of weeks ago, we went live with the first customer in the US, transporting air conditioning units between the factory at their plant to a nearby warehouse. And so we're transporting these pieces every day, going back and forth. But I'll send you a link to the video so you can hear the happy music as well. Oh, okay. speaking about Nordic cooperation, I wanted to share with you another big project that we are working on for the moment and have done so for the last year, actually. It is the Moody project, and it is led by ITS Norway, and it is financed by the European Union through Horizon Europe program. We are to investigate the challenges of level 4 freight vehicles and how, well, the challenge to implement them. We're to overcome these challenges to be able to deploy at scale. We're doing this together with different research partners and together with industry and public authorities. So it is a very interesting project, and what you are looking at now is a couple of pictures of the use cases we have defined. So in the different countries here, you will hear more about going forward when we do press releases and stuff like that about the demonstrations that we are doing. The different demonstrations are focusing on different parts of the logistics chain, because all of the the partners, the actors today doing autonomous freight transports, they are not focusing on the same use case as we are. There, you have heard a lot about highway driving, for example. So it is important to have the different use cases in mind, but also to dig into the logistics chain that this is supposed to go into. A transport is just a transport, but you have the entire chain to you need to understand the entire chain, and there's a lot of interfaces in the logistics chain. So we are looking into a lot in the project, and you will hear more from us in the coming years. So to close off my presentation, I promised to mention a bit about the challenges that we see and how we could go forward together. And I would like to start by mentioning what I actually said a couple of times already, is the useful cases. The business has up until recently in a way focused on the technology primarily, but we believe it is time to focus on the use cases. We also believe that we should focus for example, demonstration efforts to the use cases that make most gives the society most benefit, which is, from our point of view anyway, freight, of course, but also public transport. We also want to stress that we see that autonomous transport are complementing manually driven transports, and they should be used when the task at hand is too dull, too dirty, or too dangerous. For example, what I just presented regarding our deployment at Selmer, it's just a shuttle flow going back and forth a number of times every day. Those types of tasks could and should, from our perspective, be automized. I also would like to mention that the customers that we are working with, they are not just automating their transport. It is part of their quest to automate their entire logistics chain. So they are automating, for example, the factory or the warehouse, and then it is the transports, using or doing it, the transport between these hubs, autonomous, is just one part of it. So that is also very very good to bear in mind. Speaking about the useful cases, I wanted to mention something about societal readiness, and that is key. I mean, our customers is, for example, they are society, but we have a number of other, well, we have other people out there, and I think we need to change the narrative here. For example, I read a report from the IRU on driver shortage, and they listed 5 negative significant consequences for the logistics industry and economy of the driver shortage. And the final bullet was acceleration of automation. So they are presenting that in a negative context. And then we have what is happening in California with the cruise permit as an example here as well. So I think we need to help each other and change the narrative. So what I need, what I propose is that we do projects and deployments really demonstrating real benefits of the technology in useful cases.
That your final slide?
Yes.
Yes.
So I wanted to also mention a bit about the next step. We heard before that we are working for the moment under the permit for the test permit. And in this permit, we are linking the road and site to the vehicle. So that is handled in the permit application. But going forward, we have the EU type approval, which makes sure that the vehicle is up to standard. And as you might know, we have type approved vehicles on level 2 already. What is up next is then to understand which routes and roads these vehicles are permitted to drive. And I do know that in Norway, the Stortinget asked the government to ensure that in cooperation with the industry, various routes are proposed, should be proposed that can be pre-approved for autonomous driving. In Sweden, we're doing this, well, thinking about the same thing, a promemoria proposing that it's up to the road owner to decide and keep record of these pre-approved roads. So a need that we see is we need to understand the different use cases, but also create a flexible and harmonized system how to go about this pre-approval or whatever for the roads and sites. And I'll stop there. Thank you for your time, and sorry about the challenges with the video.
No problem, Pia. Thank you so much. I also have some questions to you after the final presentation from Claes. I will just give the floor to you, Claes, without much ado. So please, you can share your presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can I just start? Is that okay for you?
That is perfectly okay. Please.
Know that
do you want me to introduce you more, or the floor is yours?
We can take that afterwards. I know that you're very nervous when I'm coming up on your scene, but thank you very much for having Ruter on the scene. I'm going to talk about shared autonomous vehicles, but I'm going to talk why we're doing this. There has been a lot of interesting what's so far. So before I present myself and the company I'm working for, I will give you 2 headline news. Well, Christian, he mentioned it. What's happening right now in Phoenix, Arizona? When you are ordering an Uber car, you get sometimes a question, do you want an autonomous vehicle? And yeah, what's happening here? This is maybe the good news is the tech that has evolved and is now working very well. The bad thing for us is the business model here. We don't want that. We don't want a lot of robotaxis running around on the streets of Oslo or in the Oslo region. But here's the other good news. Now there is other projects where Waymo, it can be hard to see, but where they have now been introduced, it's still on the PowerPoint as a PowerPoint, but they have started now to integrate to public transport. And here you can see if you're taking the bus with metro access, or if you're taking the autonomous vehicle in the middle, it's the same price. That we love, because then it will be shared autonomous vehicles. So who am I? My name is Claes Carnold. I'm working for Ruter. I'm working in the department which is called Radical Innovations. And Ruter is the PTA, the Public Transport Authority, equivalent to HSL in Finland, in Helsinki, SL in Stockholm, or Movia in Copenhagen. So, and we have a quite small region, as you can see on the map, because Norway is a huge and a long country and a stretched country. But within our small area, 55% of all public transport journeys are made. So this is Ruter, and we have quite hairy goals, and we have fulfilled some of them already. We said that with 2027 would have all electrical, no emission PT in Oslo, but we will probably in next month we will have all our vehicles, even the boats, are electrical now in the city of Oslo. Well, the PowerPoint is stuck. Yeah. So which and who are our main competitor? That is the private car ownership. And as you probably know, Norway has been very successful with introduction of electrical vehicles. And right now, about 84% of all new cars sold in Norway are electrical EVs. And the rest are hybrids and some few petrol and diesel cars. And that is great for the emission in the city of Oslo, but it's not very good for the space is the same if you're using a diesel car or if you are using an electrical car. And as we have now had rules for electrical cars that they were able to, they could drive in the bus lane. The bus lanes are now stuck with electrical cars, so we have to do something dramatic. And we are basing everything on the Oslo study. You can find the Oslo study if you are searching on the Ruter homepage, the Oslo study. And the Oslo study, here we are presenting some scenarios, and I will give you two of them. The first one is individual car scenario. We conducted this study a couple of years ago, and this is was made from PTV in Germany. Similar studies have been made in Lisbon, Stuttgart, Dublin, and in Gothenburg. And we in this scenario we filled the city with individual car autonomous cars, and that's the worst case result we got, that the traffic increase would be 100%, because people would drive to the job and then let the car drive back home because they don't have any parking space in the city of Oslo, but then they let the car driving home by itself to the suburb. So this is the nightmare scenario. The good one is that we, in this scenario, which we call the integrated car scenario, we removed all the cars, the private cars. We removed a lot of our bus lines, the bus lines that were taking 6 or 9 passengers in average in our 12-meter buses. We just removed them as well. We even removed some of the tram lines, but we kept the high capacity train and the metro system. And then we got a reduction of number of vehicles of about 93%. And in this case, we removed 600,000 cars, and we substituted them with 30,000 shared autonomous vehicles. And the result was that anybody in the entire region of Oslo, even if you are living in a quite rural part of the Oslo region, in average, you got a car after ordering it after about 3 minutes. And the detour, because you will never go alone in one of these cars, we will pick up some other passengers during the route, but the average detour was calculated to even that 3 minutes, and that's nothing. If you're going to look for a parking space in Oslo, you need sometimes 10 times longer time to find a parking space. So what we do in Ruter, we believe in shared autonomous vehicles. We do not believe in autonomous vehicles. So it's so important for us to add the word shared always when talking. So we have constructed a new name now in the company, which is SAVs, SAVs. Christian, which is a very good partner to us, and the Holo, he already showed this picture, but I will very shortly go through the pilots that we have done. We started in the city center of Oslo, and we had 2 at Akershusstranda and at Kongens Gate. We had some trials with a lot of passengers, but these cars, the Navia cars, they were very slow and very sensitive to weather and other people in the roads on bicycles and kick scooters and other cars. So we started up this 2018, and I will give a lot of credit to the Navia cars because they started something that we never would have been able to do if they were not there. It was like this very small Donald Duck car looking the Think and the Buddy in Norway. We were laughing when we had the first EVs, the small ones, but we didn't laugh when the Tesla came 10 years after. And it's a little bit the same thing here. They had a very important role, the small Donald Duck cars, and the same with the Navia cars. And then we 2 years ago, roughly, we started up the She project with Sensible 4 and Holo, and that was successful because we managed to drive in heavy snow weather. And then we have the Groruddalen project. It's our 5th, and this is our last pilot. From here, we will not run any more pilots. Now we want to go into real operation. We will have about 15 and 30 vehicles. Right now we have 5 of them, and they will speed up to 80 kilometers, and they will probably, hopefully, be level 4. And Christian mentioned a lot, and this is what we now have started up. And I will show you a small short video, which I did not agree with Christian, but I will tell you that, Christian, you should be proud of, and if there is anybody else in the audience coming from Holo, you should be proud of this video that I will show you. This is the first ride that happens just a couple of days ago. So you will all now be on the first ride in Groruddalen, and I hope it will be working. And I would say you can see he's the safety driver. He has his hands 2 centimeters from the steering wheel, but he's not touching it. And let's see what's happening here. Here is in Groruddalen, and this is a super complex situation. A roundabout, I would say, in many ways, even the cars in US right now, they don't handle roundabouts in a perfect way. But this short video shows, as you can see, it's even, you can't hear the sound now, but even blinking indicator in the right way. So celebration cake to your staff in the Holo office of Oslo, and I hope I can have a share of it as well because I love cakes. Shared autonomous vehicles. Well, what are we going to do? Yeah, we believe this will be the, as I said, this will reduce congestion and emission and will be the freedom of movement that will beat the private car ownership. And here is our plan for the next 7 years. As you can see to the left, the gray area is today how much rides within our area that is made by private vehicles. We will take the shared autonomous vehicles part, and talking about cakes and celebration cakes, we will take a lot of the private cars until 2030. This is a very hairy goal. And what will we offer? I will have some what's, not only whys. We will offer on demand 24/7. You can have this car picking you up outside your door, driving to the point where you want to go. And it should be integrated to the public transport. So if you have a monthly card with Ruter, this should be one of the services included in that service. And it must be seamless, completely seamless, because if you're coming in from the suburbs with the high capacity trains into Oslo, it must be seamless waiting for you, taking you to the end destination. And we have now been working for, the last year we've been working daily with all these edge cases. You can see, for example, believe if your 16 years old daughter is going home alone late on a Friday, and then maybe we should, since we have now such a good digital platform, we can, in her profile, we can give her the option to drive maybe alone or just with other females from A to B. This is one of 1,000 cases that we now are studying and trying to integrate into our solution. So our plan now is to have about 15 to 20 in the Grorud Valley, the Groruddalen. And then within 2.5 years, we have said that we should have up to 500 shared autonomous vehicles. And the vehicles will be able to take about from 4 to 6 person, maximum 6 person, we would say. And then we will scale the operation, and we have a goal that says that up to 20,000 shared autonomous vehicles 2030. And then we believe that steady state will be 30,000 plus to in fact delete all the private journeys with a private car. Finally, I will finish this presentation. And 1970, the most fantastic and most it was in petrol car like that. It should be cabriolet, and that was not sustainable. And the lady on the car, which was I would say beautiful. 2023, the car is super sustainable, and it's super smart, delivered by Ruter and Holo. And but we have changed. We have taken away the beautiful lady and changed her to an old grumpy guy who is here. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to your elaboration and your questions. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Claes. I had a couple of comments on the grumpy old man, but I will restain myself from that. We will, if I could have Pia, Reijo, Siri, and if Christian is still here online, then please could you show up again. We have now about 20 minutes for questions. So if you have any particular questions from your end, please raise your hand and I will open the floor for you. I would like to ask, starting by asking, thank you all, by the way, for great presentations. I mean, we need to understand a little bit about the background, also see what's happening, so on. So I think it's very important that we have also the regulatory part, and it's interesting to hear a little bit the difference also from Finland to Norway. There were some interesting comments in the chat, and I will actually go back to a little bit about the mapping and data collection. I think that is important. If I have a question to Siri and Rayo, can you regulate what kind of data you need to access or have from the OEMs in order to provide the best service, in order to provide a safe and autonomous journey? Have you been giving any thought about that? Or do you just say the data doesn't matter? Siri.
Well, there are some regulations regarding data that the EU have regulated, and those are primarily data on the engine coming from a workshop that needs to do work. You need to know the state of the car and the engine and the electronic devices. We have looked into what it will take to get a more transparent and fluent sharing of data across vehicles and infrastructure, and us as a national access point, NAP, which is also regulated by the EU, that we need to have that. And there are several ways to go about this. One is that we actually purchase this from the OMEs that had this data today. Another one is to regulate it, that if you operate on Norwegian roads, you have to give us data. This has not been decided on the route ahead. What we see is that we need to have a more, maybe a more political discussion on what the role of the state. And this also goes to the discussion that me and Knut Gjetlund from the Norwegian Mapping Authority had in the chat, that the role of the state is challenged by this disruptive technology, as to what role we should take. Should we leave it all up to the market, or should we take some responsibilities? If we take responsibility, that is, of course, something that will, you need some resources to do that, both in actual funding, but also in humans. So we're in the early stages of that discussion. And I thought that this was a great sort of collaborative space to sort of give that sort of birthing help to that discussion as well, because it's something that we need to lift in Norway, at least.
Hey, do you have any comments?
Well, I think we are concentrating right now about the data we would like to have about the tests, and this is under construction. We don't know yet what we would like to know and what we can share to others. Of course, there must be some kind of data that companies don't share. We have to decide what those informations are. But we are getting there, maybe hopefully next spring.
Good. Have you visited Norway yet and been looking into the projects, Rayo?
No, we haven't, unfortunately.
Then you're invited by ITS Norway together with ITS Finland as a Nordic Plus to do that. And if there are other parties that are interested also in this room, send me an email and we will arrange that for a tour. Because we believe it's very important about that data sharing as in this context, data sharing and project sharing, and to discuss like CD was. I mean, here we have a public entity, or two public entities actually opened their doors and saying we're interested to hear your thoughts and how we could move in this new kind of a new era. Einride, Pia, you're very slow on, not you, but the people on the chat here. They're on the chat, but they're not raising their hands. Either they're very shy or they don't have that many questions. Did you say how many vehicles you already have you have planned, or are you more in here or in the US? Where do you see your market at the moment?
Yeah, we are focusing on Sweden and the US, but what we have in the pipeline, I cannot unfortunately tell you.
But you have a pipeline, that's good. But Sweden and US are the kind of the markets for you. And
yeah, but we are. I mean, we are in discussion with customers in Europe as well. But yeah, we're not excluding.
Yeah. And you currently also, you work only with Scania, is one of the pictures as OEM was Scania, or do you have other OEMs that you collaborate with?
Yes, absolutely. We have trucks from DAF, Mercedes, BYD, MAN, I think. So we have many of the big ones.
Yeah. And the final question from me was you mentioned there that you kind of still deliver like end to end, but you use Saga as the kind of the operational model. But if we looked at Holo, they had 4 or 5, including Router, and different collaborative partners. Is this a model that you see that you can also lean towards for in the future?
Regarding the data and the operation, I'm not aware of any ideas like that. But for example, we are in partnerships regarding the charging infrastructure. So not the data and information, but other parts.
Router, Claes, very interesting. And do you foresee that this is something that Router will handle on their own, these 30,000 plus SAVs? Now we have a new term, I guess, shared automated vehicles as well.
Router will have some kind of some tender, and today we are operating a lot of buses, and it will be, I would say, it will be the same way that we will have an operator or operators for these 30,000 cars in the future.
Do you think there will be any critics that like then PTA, public PTA, is operating like this, or do you think this is something that could be delivered in cooperation with a private company?
I would say if I'm looking on yeah, I would say it will definitely be both in the future. Definitely be both. So
Yeah.
as you can see today, we have Oslo Sporveien. It's a public company that is running even the buses for us. But the most of the buses are private-owned companies. So there will be probably it will be a mixture.
I see, Søren, you have raised your hand and you've been very active in the chat. So please, Søren.
Yeah, that's a question, I guess, to Claes from Router, where I can summon a car to come and pick me up, but how do you ensure that I go to a public transport service if it's available, and prevent me from just going to my destination in that nice vehicle and that I'm now sitting in? How do you get me out again?
First of all, Søren, always nice to see you. Well, what you said, this will be public transport. So this is a part of public transport. But we will, of course, if you are going from a suburb with a high capacity train, it will probably be easier for you to go with the train first anyhow. But there will be cannibalizing. There will be people that will sit in that nice car. But if we manage to get rid of 600,000 cars, then we will be, that will be the victory anyhow. But today, and I think it's all about nudging. We are always, if you are coming to Oslo, which I hope you will do so, Søren, then you will download the Router app. And if you are going from the central station to the National Theatre, for example, which is a 2-stop ride with the metro, we always tell you, Søren, you can walk. It's about 2,400 steps. Or you can take one of our city bikes, or the third option, you can take our metro. And we do that because we don't want the metro to be crowded during peak hours. And I think we will use the same methods here by nudging people to the right mobility option. So that there will be some people, of course, very lazy ones. Lazy Danes may be coming, Søren. But then you will be very much welcome to take one of our cars. But I've seen the total effect we should not worry about that. I think that will be in total positive, but we need to do a lot of job with nudging.
Yeah, and but the other thing is that, I mean, whether I'm going in a car that I'm driving or a car that I'm being driven in, I mean, it's still a car. It fills up the same space. So I'm just interested in how do we get people to, I mean, the beauty of having your own car is that you can go from door to door.
Yeah,
That's the perceived beauty.
Yeah.
So how do we get that out of the equation except for a lower price and a limitation on where you can go?
Yeah, but you will never go alone, Søren. So if you're going from A to B, and if there are any other people on the way or from the origin to the destination, so then you will have to share. So we will not let you go by your own. And if there is other people during the route that will go in the same direction, then we'll pick up them as well. So in total, that will be, I would say we have been calculating, and we will free about 184 football fields just in the municipality of Oslo by space, by not having the private cars that we have today. So the space will be solved in many ways with our solution.
Yeah, but the autonomous vehicle does not can that take that away? I mean, they do not need any parking space, so that argument goes away.
Well, if you're taking away 600,000 cars and substitute them with 30,000, I would say the math is telling you a lot, right?
Thanks.
Thanks. Reijo, I hope you do have a question or comment.
I noticed that Søren had a question 1:42 p.m. How can you as a person be liable for AV? And I think that is an excellent question, and I have given a lot of thought to that. Nowadays, there must be a driver, not necessarily inside a vehicle, but there must be a driver. As I told you earlier, right now we are thinking that there can be exemptions about the driver, and because there is always a driver, the question is, who is the driver? And that's why I never use the word autonomous, because actually autonomous is something that makes the decision. The cars don't go driving by themselves. They don't decide when to go. There is always a human who pushes the button, start and go, and cars don't decide where to go. I don't know whether there is a test where the car is autonomous in that way. They are always automated vehicles, but that's only my opinion. But I don't like, as a lawyer, I don't like the autonomous word in testing. And in the future, the question rises when there are exemptions about the driver. When a human person is not a driver, there can be some product liability issues, but we haven't solved them yet. But excellent question, Søren.
And I think that the judicial question will be even at a greater point, something that we need to elaborate on more. And I think coming back to Siri's comments in the beginning about barriers, that's one of the barriers that still needs discussion back and forth and needs involvement of both OEMs, the providers, but also users, etc. So this is, I think, a webinar on its own as well in the future, or coming down the lane in the future. When I earlier mentioned that there's a possibility to join us in Norway to visit some of the projects, there's also a project in the south of Norway in the city called Stavanger, where there's a large bus now operating on its own. I think it's about 40 kilometers up per hour, and it can with a safety driver, but also like in Groruddalen, not holding the wheel, and also through tunnels and roundabouts. So that is also as of interest to have a look at. And then we see the transition towards more of the public authorities actually taking charge of and it goes back to what Pia said, the kind of a scenarios in the future. You have the logistical approach or logistic approach where you can have, or the public transport. Are there any comments as such from the audience? I see you're very active on the chat, and I'm trying to hard following both the chat and reading. And I see also that Marco has a question. I don't know, Klaus, if you want to kind of operate to answer that. But there was a rumor a few months ago. We all saw that in the news that Waymo is planning to start operating Oslo. Was this only a marketing rumor? Have there been some real discussions? That is Marco from ITS Finland asking.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. No.
We saw it in the news, I think, Marco, and I think I reported to you that that was probably a mistake from that, but we don't know. We would
we would love to, as long as they operate not as a robotaxi. If they are coming here operating like a shared autonomous vehicles, that would be fantastic. But we have no such a contacts with them.
Okay, excellent. We will start closing in on this webinar. I would like to thank so much to Siri, Reijo, Pia, Klaus, and Christian for their presentations. And as this Nordic Plus is for all of our members, so if you have any ideas of webinars that you would like us to have on any topic that regards mobility or transport, please contact us, because we're here for all the members. And as I said earlier, we will share the recording and the PDFs of the presentations afterwards as well. And we invite you all to Norway, and we can set up a, well, not all of you, because we can't handle all the 60 people at once, but at least some of you, and we will not exclude, we can do it in different parts, to visit the projects that are ongoing in order to share those discussions and be better as a Nordic region. On that note, if there are no words from our presenters, if there's someone who wants to have the final word. No.
I just want to say thank you to you, Jenny.
Ah, Søren, you're kind.
For
thank you so
excellent
much.
moderation.
Very good. Thank you.
We all agree. We all agree.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you back again soon.
See you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.